O Lord, O Supreme Eternal, by expanding your plenary portion, you have created the subtle bodies of the living entities through the agency of your external energy, which is agitated by time. Thus, the mind entraps the living entity in unlimited varieties of desires to be fulfilled by the Vedic directions of karmakanda, fruitive activity, and the 16 elements. Who can get free from this entanglement unless he takes shelter at your lotus feet? Purport. If the hand of the Supreme Personality Godhead is present in everything, where is the question of being liberated from material engagement to spiritual blissful life? Indeed, it is a fact that Krishna is the source of everything, as we understand from Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita, Ham Sarvasya Prabhava. All the activities in both the spiritual and material world are certainly conducted by the orders of the Supreme Personality Godhead through the agency of either the material or spiritual nature, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9.10, Maya Dyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. Without the direction of the Supreme Lord, material nature cannot do anything. It cannot act independently. Therefore, in the beginning, this mysterious, the beginning, in the beginning, the living entity wanted to enjoy the material energy and to give the living entity all facility. Krishna, the Supreme Personality Godhead, created this material world. It gave the living entity the facility to concoct different ideas and plans through the mind. These facilities offered by the Lord to the living entity constitute the 16 kinds of perverted support in terms of the knowledge-gathering senses, the working senses, the mind, and the 5 material elements. So that's the 16. 5 material elements, 5 working senses, 5 knowledge-acquiring senses, and the 5 material elements. 16. The wheel of repeated birth and death is created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but to direct the bewildered living entity in progress toward liberation according to varied stages of advancement, different directions are given in the Vedas. Chando Mayam. Chando Mayam. If one wants to be elevated to the higher planetary systems, he may follow the Vedic directions, as the Lord states in Bhagavad Gita 9.25. Yanti Deva Vrata Devan Pitrin Yanti Pritri Vrataha Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja Yanti Mam Yajino Pimam. Translation. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors. And those who worship me will live with me. The real purpose of the Vedas is to direct one back home, back to Godhead. But the living entity, not knowing the real goal of his life, wants to go sometimes here and sometimes there, and do something, sometimes this and sometimes that. In this way, he wanders throughout the entire universe, imprisoned in various species, and thus engaging in various activities for which he must suffer the reactions. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore says, Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 19, 151, Brahmanda Brahmiti Kona Bhagavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bija. The fallen, conditioned living entity, trapped by the external energy, loiters in the material world. But if by good fortune he meets a bona fide representative of the Lord who gives him the seed of devotional service, and if he takes advantage of such a guru or representative of God, he receives the Bhakti Lata Bija, the seed of devotional service. If he properly cultivates Krishna consciousness, he is then gradually elevated to the spiritual world. The ultimate conclusion is that one must surrender to the principles of Bhakti Yoga, for then one will gradually attain liberation. No other method of liberation from the material struggle is at all possible, which is the point of the verse. Who is there besides one who takes shelter of you can get free from the encumbrances? In other words, as the verse is saying, there's procedure for going up, procedure for going here, going there. The wish-fulfilling tree of the Vedas fulfills desires for this and that and the other thing. But it also fulfills the desire to go to Krishna. And that's the conclusion of the Vedas, or the ultimate purpose of the Vedas, or the final knowledge of the Vedas. And Prahlada's little boy, but he's pointing out the purpose of the Vedas and his relationship with Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva, why he's taking shelter of him. He's concerned about the material circumstance. My dear Lord, O Supreme Great, you have created this material world of 16 constituents, but you are transcendental to their material qualities. In other words, these material qualities are under your full control, and you're never conquered by them. Therefore, the time element is your representation. My Lord, O Supreme, no one can conquer you. As for me, however, I am being crushed by the wheel of time, and therefore I surrender fully unto you. Now kindly take me under the protection of your lotus feet. Purport. The wheel of material miseries is also a creation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he is not under the control of the material energy. Rather, he is the controller of the material energy, whereas we, the living entities, are under his control. When we give up our constitutional position, Jivera Swarupaya Krishnera Nityadas, the Supreme Personality of Godhead creates this material energy and her influence over the conditioned souls. Therefore, he is the Supreme, and only he can deliver the conditioned souls from the onslaught of material nature. Mam eva ye prapadyante, mayam etam taranti te. Maya, the external energy, continuously imposes upon the conditioned souls the suffering of the threefold miseries of this material world. Therefore, in the previous verse, Prahlāda Maharaj prayed to the Lord, "But for your Lordship, no one can save me." Unquote. Prahlāda Maharaj has also explained that a child's protectors, his parents, cannot save the child from the onslaught of birth and death, nor can medicine and a physician save one from death, nor can a boat or similar means of protection save a person drowning in the water. For everything is controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, suffering humanity must surrender to Krishna, as Krishna himself demands. in the last instruction of Bhagavad Gita. Sarvadharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma suchaha. Translation: abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. All of humanity, all of human society must take advantage of this offer and thus be saved by Krishna from the danger of being crushed by the wheel of time, the wheel of past, present, and future. Paragraph. The word nishpidyamanam, being crushed, is very significant. Every living entity in the material condition is actually being crushed again and again. And to be saved from this position, one must take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then one will be happy. The word prapanam is also very significant, for unless one fully surrenders to the Supreme Lord, one cannot be saved from being crushed. Keeps repeating this word, crushed. Feel its weight. A criminal is put in prison and punished by the government, but the same government, if it likes, can release the criminal from imprisoned life. Similarly, we must know conclusively that our material condition of suffering has been allotted to us by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and if we want to be saved from this suffering, we must appeal to the same controller. Thus one can be saved from this material condition. Prahlada is just a small boy. At the same time, he's been, we hear in the 10th chapter, he was sent by the Personality of God to this realm to teach the way of pure devotional service. So although he's just a small boy, he's in the body of a small boy, but he's in the consciousness of a perfected soul. And on top of that, the Personality of Godhead touched him on the head with his hand, something similar to what happened to Dhruva, right? The Lord touched him on the head with his conch, and presto, he became filled with ecstatic love for Krishna. And in that ecstatic love for Krishna condition, Prahlāda was able, it's what's said earlier in this chapter, his all material desire, material contamination, any material influence gone. Although he was already there, he was already qualified like that. So his teaching is teaching us the way of attaining the Supreme and looking at the misfortune of those who don't. He's speaking of himself as if he's one that has not taken shelter. Nishpidyamanam, being crushed by the wheel of time. In reading the Bhagavatam, this is some appreciation. In reading the Bhagavatam, well, it helps to read it a lot. And one of the reasons why it helps to read it a lot is topics. It's not like an encyclopedia where if you want to find out about such and such topic, you go to the encyclopedia over here. And there's all the things you want to know about something over here, then something over there. So the Bhagavatam isn't structured like that. Like, just for example, the topic of time. The topic of time, we know from Bhagavad Gita, it's one of the 5 most important topics of the whole. It is one of the 5 primary topics of the whole Bhagavad Gita. And how much is there spoken of in Bhagavad Gita about time? But it's very important. And so, in the Bhagavatam, more is spoken about time. But it's not just, you read these chapters and everything you need to know about time is there. It's here, and it's there, and it's there, and it's there, and it's over there, and it's over there. It's not like an encyclopedia. It's not structured like that. I mean, everything one needs to know is there, but it's not structured index like an encyclopedia. So I invite you, as you're reading Srimad-Bhagavatam, to take note, maybe just by saying this, some of you will. Take note. Want a nice seat over here? Come on over. The grandpa seat.
Whoops.
Good deal. Good deal. Time. Time.
That's the best one yet.
I've been preparing some writing on Brahma Samhita. And I'll just share, here's a few things. It's a little bit here, a little bit there. So some, with the glance of, you know who Maha-Vishnu is? Great. Tell me what you know about Maha-Vishnu. He's the Lord. He sure is. What do you know? Lord Maha-Vishnu? Maha-Vishnu? If you wanted to find him, where would you go? Where does he hang out? Where's his abode? No, he stays in the ocean. Really? He stays in the ocean? He stays in the Karana ocean, because his name is Karana, means causal. Karana means causal. Karana Dakshayi Vishnu reclines in the Karana ocean. Karana means causal ocean. He reclines in the causal ocean on a very nice resting place, Anantashesh. Anantashesh? Yeah, Anantashesh. Many hoods, and he's like, makes everything comfortable for Maha-Vishnu. And Maha-Vishnu has something to do with the time energy. What does he have to do with the time energy? He's responsible for creation. And when it's time for creation, because the time word again, when it's time in cyclical periods of time, it's time for creation, he, Maha-Vishnu, glances over the cloud-like appearance of the material energy, the undifferentiated cloud-like substance called pradhan. He just glances. Pradhan is said to be an expansion, a shadow reflection. Like here's a big mirror, and I can see everybody in the mirror, but I know you're over here. Good, but there's reflection in the mirror. So it's just a reflection or a shadow of his Maha-Vishnu's internal potency, whose name is Rama. Rama. There's Lord Rama and there's Rama Devi. They're different. They're very different. Rama Devi is like Sita, the consort of Maha-Vishnu, Rama Devi. She has her reflected manifestation as Pradhan. Maha-Vishnu glances over Pradhan. Rama Devi understands his desire. It's time for creation. So she entrusts all the living entities, the totality of living entities, unto that glance of Maha-Vishnu, along with time energy. Kala. Kala means time. So that time energy, listen carefully, time energy has two divisions. Kriya Shakti, Kriya means activity, and Ichha Shakti, desire. So we're already starting to get complicated. Things haven't even started up yet. But time energy has subdivisions. The energy of activity and the energy of desire. Because without the energy of activity, can you do anything? No. Without time, can you do anything? No. You need time to do anything. Say it in reverse. Without time, you can't do anything. The time energy, not just like, okay, there's measurements of time, but then there's the time energy. It's fascinating. And the time energy gets the ball rolling. And the time energy maintains, and the time energy withdraws. Because time moves in cycles, and it has a beginning, an intermediate phase, and then a withdrawal phase. And then time, it's finished. And there's measures of time. And then there's eternal time. So the wheel of time is crushing living. It's bringing them into being, and it's also destroying. It has this, multi features. Now, if you want to be a really good creator, if you want to be God, you have to be able to control time. We can't control it. We're controlled by time. But he controls time. So when it's time for cosmic annihilation, it's really simple. He pulls the plug. He just withdraws time energy. And when he withdraws time energy, the whole thing collapses. The show's over. Cosmic manifestation is withdrawn. Finished. Cosmic annihilation time. For equal duration as the cosmic manifestation is the cosmic annihilation. And the living entities don't have any experience of passage of time. Have any of you had the good fortune or misfortune of having anesthesia? Anyone has had that experience? When anesthesia is administered, consciousness is made as dull as it can be. The soul doesn't go out of existence, but consciousness is made very dull. It's called susupti. It's an anesthetized state. And when you're under anesthesia, you don't have any experience of the passage of time. Correct? No experience of the passage of time. I had it once, or some procedure. When you get older, there's certain things you have to check and see if you have this problem. So when I came out of, you're supposed to start at 10 and count backwards. I think I got this 8. And then, I'm out. They did the procedure, and I'm pretty much in the same position. And I looked up at the clock, and some time had passed. But I didn't feel, it wasn't like sleeping. It wasn't like sleeping. You feel some passage of time. When it's anesthetized, it's no pass. So it's closer to eternal time, but it's not eternal time. It's just that consciousness is made very dull. And eternal time goes the other direction. Consciousness is at its maximum, where there is no passage of time. Not only there's not a sense of passage of time because consciousness is dull, there's no passage of time. And that's the spiritual condition. So Prahlāda is saying here, there's many other things to see. Time is a fascinating. So when you read the Bhagavatam, take note. Maybe even take a notebook. And when you come across something that says about time, make a note. And you read something else, and then try to stitch the pieces together, and it's very interesting. We don't see time passing. We see the effect of time passing. Here's a little girl sitting on your lap. And someday she's going to look like the little girl that's sitting in the front row here. And then she's going to look like, when time passes, everything changes. We don't see it because it's going incrementally. But you put it on fast forward, and the whole thing keeps spinning. And then how do you get out of that spin? That's what this verse is about. That the way to get out of that spin of time being moved by the Kala Chakra, the wheel of time, is there's only one method. The Vedic methods provide opportunity for moving up and down. That's what's in this purport. You can go up. Urdhvan gacchati sattvastha, madhye tishtanti rajasa, adho gacchati tamasa. But they're just different phases of time, up and middle and down. Or yanti deva vata devan, this other verse. So one can move from this situation to the next situation reliably by just following the codes of the Vedas. They're there to assist in desires. But that's what happens when the time energy is cast into pradhan along with the living entities. The karma of the living entities was previously suspended. It didn't go out of existence, it just went to sleep. But then it gets agitated by time. And then desires start to come. When the desires, they're just stored in a subtle body that's asleep. And when time energy moves, then you come out of your anesthetized state and say, who you are and what your activities are, and the light comes on. And that's the dawn of creation. And then it just continues moving and moving and moving and moving and moving. We're being moved. We think we're moving it. It's moving us. And what's being said here is by Prahlāda, the only method of having that cycle of time moving us to be ended and to be situated in eternal time is to be at the shelter of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, he's petitioning him. Of course, he's already there, but he's petitioning him to accept him, to pick him up and place him in that position as in the shelter of his lotus feet. Mahaprabhu said the same, doesn't he? In his Shikshastika verses, place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. So that's there are two things required there's subdivisions of those two things, but two things are required for spiritual life. I'm just reading it before coming here. Is that your phone? Okay. Yeah, I'm sure it will. All things stop eventually. Okay. If we want, if we want, or to say it positively, we want to get closer to who we really are. We want to get closer to our true spiritual identity. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. We'd be doing something else. Even if there's, younger children, they're at least getting the opportunity here before they're making too many adult-like choices. But if we're here because we want to know who we are. And to know who you are, that means you have to wind down the illusion of who you aren't. So some aspiration and some endeavor. Trying to recall this. Raghunath Das Goswami is describing these preliminary requirements for spiritual progress. There's some requirement of effort, and certainly acknowledgement of the necessity for mercy. Here, Prahlāda is speaking of, he's calling for mercy. And he knows where to go. I mean, Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva has come to him, and he's appealing, please give me shelter at your lotus feet, in that your eternal service. The Sanskrit terms are really nice. I wish you could remember them. Anyway, as long as one is invested in upholding, regardless of what we know, we know better than identifying the self in terms of the body. It's like, chapter 2 Bhagavad Gita. It's really basic teaching. We're not the body. We're spirit soul. We're part and parcel of the Supreme Soul, meant for service to the Supreme. That's who we are. And we're holding on to the bodily conception, which is like lighting a fire and pouring water on it. So what do? We acknowledge that we have a body and we have a bodily conception, and we're striving to go beyond it. So then, therefore, we need some regulations, vidhis, some things that are recommended for us to do, and we follow those vidhis. But not just mechanically, we follow vidhis with a purpose. And Raghunath Das, this text that he's written, speaks of doing so with, it's a nice adjective, it's a certain kind of enthusiasm, like ardent enthusiasm. It's, if you're not enthusiastic to get from one place to another place, you can get from one place to another place. It could take you a long time. Here's a really easy one. Supposing you want to cook some rice. You need a few things. You need some rice. You need a pot. You need some water. Maybe a little salt. And a flame. You can cook some rice. So supposing the flame is low, it's going to take longer. Supposing the flame is high, but you put the rice 3 feet above the flame, it's going to take some time. It'll still cook, but it's going to take longer. If you move it close to the flame, then no. Anyway, so the intensity of our effort, the intensity of purpose, not just spin faster, do more, but the purpose, the clarity and focus of purpose when doing the following things that are beneficial for us just in the sadhana stage It'll help us make progress more swiftly. And when one is trying to do that, there's a very clear realization that comes. I can't do this on my own. A real simple one. Put your hand in your bead bag and try to be focused when chanting. What happens? Mind is all over the place. So then you try, you endeavor to be very focused. I need to make an endeavor, I need to make a very, wish I could remember the Sanskrit term, very strong endeavor, and I need mercy. Because it's not being requested of us because it's impossible. It's just we're being teased by something that's not possible. It's not like that. It's meant for us. It's customized for us. Purposeful. It's the means of going beyond the being crushed by the wheel of time. That was the verse that we read for those of you that just came in. Prahlāda speaking about it. And he's appealing to Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva for that mercy. To take me to, when will that day come? Will you take me to your lotus feet? He's right there at his lotus feet. But he's speaking as if he's not. So the process of bhakti, generally speaking, is gradual. And it's gradual for one reason. We're very attached to the illusory conceptions that we have about ourselves and what happiness is and what life is and what success is, and we're too busy being successful to understand what the real mission of life is, generally speaking. But in good association and good effort and some very trying to become more and more clear about what the real mission and purpose is, then progress is more swift. Let me read more verse. Tomorrow is Nṛsiṁha's appearance day. I hope you're looking forward to it. Text 24. My dear Lord, now I have complete experience concerning the worldly opulence, mystic power, longevity, and other material pleasures enjoyed by all living entities, from Lord Brahma down to the ant. I mean, he's just a 5-year-old boy, and he has all this experience already. As powerful time, you destroy them all. Therefore, because of my experience, I do not wish to possess them. My dear Lord, I request you to place me in touch with your pure devotee and let me serve him as a sincere servant. Now, how does he know all this? He knows it. He's saying by experience, but his experience is through sound. He heard all this from Narada. And so he's convinced. And therefore, that the desire is not material anything. Material assets, wealth, prosperity, mystic power, heavenly destination, etc. I don't want those. Those are all destroyed by time. I want the association of Narada and devotees like Narada. Why? Because through them I'll hear about you. And when I hear about you, then I'm fixed in your association. Now, he's in before the Supreme Lord, so he's not a sadhaka, but he's teaching us the way of pure devotional service, because that's what we said at the beginning. It's in chapter 10. The Lord sent him here to this world to teach the way of pure devotional service. So he's teaching us. Paragraph from the purport. By studying Srimad-Bhagavatam, every intelligent man can get experience like that of Prahlāda Maharaj through the historical incidents mentioned in this great literature of spiritual knowledge. By following in the footsteps of Prahlāda Maharaj, one should gain thorough experience of all material opulence is perishable at every moment, even this body, for which we try to acquire so many sensual pleasures, may perish at any time. The soul, however, is eternal. The hanyate hanyamani sharire. The soul is never vanquished, even when the body is destroyed. An intelligent man, therefore, should care for the happiness of the spirit soul, not of the body. Even if one receives a body with a long duration of life, like those of Lord Brahma and the other great demigods, it will also be destroyed. And therefore an intelligent man should be concerned with the imperishable spirit soul. I mean, it's a Bhagavad Gita class in the middle of a Bhagavatam purport. It's really taking the message of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, and then elevating it to the context of a Puranic story, a pure devotee, Prahlāda, and helping us to understand the life of pure devotion by applying "you're not the body" teachings and how to do that. That's one of the functions, one of the primary functions of a Purana. It's putting in historical context basic teachings so that we can understand how to make these teachings apply in our life. Tomorrow's Nṛsiṁhadeva's appearance day. A very auspicious day. And I've been speaking about Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva for like, 20 classes in a row now. It's a nice absorption. I like the you know Kripamoya from England? You've heard his name. He's here. He's in Chicago for that big hoopla, the wedding. Sunday. His son is marrying Sundari Radha. Yeah. So he said something the other evening. Held up his left hand. She was saying that Prabhupada was showing about Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva. He has claws that are very sharp. But the palms of his paws are very soft. So the claws are for the demons, and the soft palm is for the devotee. Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva is very soft. I mean, he was roaring so loudly. The world was shaking, and the demigods were trembling, and so forth and so on. But as soon as Prahlāda came, Shanti. Very peaceful. Prahlāda came and prostrated at his feet. He picked him up, placed his paw or hand upon his head, and Prahlāda was transformed by the touch of the Lord's hand, so that he could speak these beautiful prayers. He wanted to speak, but it's very similar to Dhruva. He wanted to speak, but he hadn't even gone to school yet. So what's he going to say? But the touch of the Supreme Lord. So Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva is very kind to the devotee. And when the shelter taking of Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva is there, one feels his protection, and he literally protects. If any of you have not yet seen the 84-page publication that's online with the Mayapur ISKCON website. If you haven't seen it, it's stories of Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva, our Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva in Mayapur, curing people and reciprocating with people in amazing ways. Very personal, very affectionate. He liked Dr. Nṛsiṁhadeva. He cures people, and is very kind. I'm going to just tell two stories, and we're going to end, see if there's some discussion. One of the stories that we read the other evening was a girl that came before the deity of Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva and was offering prayers, and she heard a voice, "Please return my eyes." She looked around where there was nobody around. So she went back to offering her prayers. She heard the voice again, "I want my eyes back." And she looked at Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva, and she saw he had different eyes than she was used to seeing, because previously he had very intense-looking red eyes. Somebody came as a gift and decided to give him a different set of eyes because they looked too intimidating. Some other kind of eyes, blue eyes or red eyes or brown eyes or whatever it was. So she heard it a third time. She went and told the pujaris. And he said, "Don't worry, it's being taken care of." And the next day, she saw Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva again with his red eyes. So there's another part of the story, and that's the pujari who replaced the eyes. Those of you that have been to Mayapur, you've been to Mayapur. So where the deity is, there isn't another entrance. There's only the front. There isn't a side or any kind of other entrance. So that he was inside the closed door, doing his worship. And the Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva told him, "I want my eyes back." Because he is the one that had replaced his eyes. So he was very afraid. So he went and told Janadivas, "What should I do?" He said, "Give him his eyes back." He's saying he wants his eyes. And then he just became very peaceful. So when you look closely at photographs, and you'll see big red eyes, intense looking, and because it's the Ugra Nrsimha in a pose just before he pounces on Hiranyakashipu. It's that there's a particular name, I forget the adjective, the Ugra Nrsimha pose where he's going to pounce. And he's showing his fangs and his claws. But you look also at the form of Nṛsiṁhadeva and Chandanyatra, and you see he has a big smile. Look. Big smile, very happy. Very merciful deity. Here's another story. It's not our Nṛsiṁhadeva in Mayapur, but it's a personal experience I had with our godbrother Sridhar Swami, who spent many, many, many years along the side by side with Giriraj Maharaj in Juhu, helping to establish the Juhu temple in all of its full glory. When that project was completed, he began more travel, and in course of time, he was residing in New York. We would have breakfast and lunch together every day. He had a certain room where he was doing membership, etc., etc. So I got to know him very well. And after some time, he was diagnosed with having hepatitis C or something like that. And the doctor told him, you have X number of months, and be prepared. So he got a deity of Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva. And then he started doing certain cures to help reduce the acceleration of the hepatitis C. And his lifespan went way beyond what the doctor said it was his endpoint was. When it got to be like nearly a year, he said, maybe I'm going to live longer. So he then started working on behalf of the Temple of Vedic Planetarium. And one of the things that he did with the Temple of Vedic Planetariums, he went with a disciple to Mayapur Das was his name, to visit Epcot Center, because he was thinking there's some exhibits at Epcot Center that we may be able to use at the TOVP. So he went with that purpose. He took all of his stuff, rented a car from the airport, parked the car in the parking lot of the Epcot Center, went inside and saw what he saw and came back, and someone had broken into the car. And along with everything else that they took his deity of Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva. And he came back to New York after that and told me what happened. And I was holding my head thinking, stealing the property of a Brahmana, sannyasi, guru, stealing Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva, that poor person, what's going to happen to him? And I was really surprised by Maharaj's response. He was as cool as a cucumber and said, you have no idea, Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva is very merciful. Some great fortune will come to this person. Like, what? But that was his realization. Just from having worshipped a deity of Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva for a short while. And those devotees there are devotees, I'm sure you know some, who are really devoted to Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva. And they feel similar. They feel a very special relationship because he's very merciful, very kind. Not that other forms of the Lord are not, but Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva is particularly very kind and merciful and affectionate. Although he looks like... the form that Maharaj was worshipping was not an Ugra Nrsimha, it was a Prahlāda Nrsimha. But, the ferocious side is, as Prahlāda says in his prayers, is for the non-devotees, and the very gentle side is for the devotees. He wants to see the devotees are in good situation and well protected and safe. And when you feel safe, you can be very peaceful and carry out your service. So tomorrow his appearance day, worship him and offer your prayers. Prahlāda is teaching us how to offer prayers. As a pure devotee will offer prayers. So you certainly can take your Srimad-Bhagavatam tomorrow and prepare yourself for his appearance and hear how Prahlāda is offering very nice prayers. There's many nice standard prayers also. So I invite you, immerse yourself and be ready for his appearance. Let's see if there's some discussion. Anything you'd like about Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva, or off topic is okay too.
Maharaj, can I share a personal story that really happened to me?
It really happened.
Yeah.
Don't tell us one that didn't happen.
With Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva.
Okay.
When I was a brahmacharini long time ago, I do book distribution a lot. And I'm so determined. At the time, I do house to house, knock on people's door. and I never take no for an answer.
Uh-oh.
So that's how determined I am to distribute my books. And so I passed by with this like a rich house, big, just to get inside. It's a long walk to the door. And I knock in front, but nobody answer. Then I said, I'm gonna go around. And going around is also a long walk to go to that back door. And then when I'm walking towards the back door, all of a sudden, there's two German dogs. When I was a brahmacharini, I was a very tiny woman, and the dog is bigger than me. And when I saw
There were
them,
two of them.
yeah, and there's two of them, and they're charging so fast that they're gonna ready to,
Have you
attack-
kneel?
Yes, attack me because I think they're a guard dog. When I saw that, I prayed to Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva. The prayers that we do, Namaste prayers, that's
Yes.
what I did. And all of a sudden, from so aggressive and charging towards me, ready to kill me, when they come to me, all of a sudden they got so scared that their tail, like they saw something that's, when they're around me. And then the owner of the house was watching in the window. And when he saw his dog, they so scared of me. She think they scared of me. So she ran out, and she was like she can't believe that the dog are so scared of me. And she asked me, where did I get my power from? And I said, all my power is from this book. And he said, I want to learn the power, but actually it's Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva is protecting me. So he invited me inside the house, and she wants to know more about the books, and she get all my books, and she said that she's gonna distribute it to all his friends. So that's Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva's mercy. So she said that if I learn this book, then I will get the same power as you have. But I don't have no power. It's all Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva's mercy.
Keep reading. And keep praying. Sometimes it takes danger to make prayer intense enough. But, it doesn't have to be danger. It can be good association and awakening of spiritual desire. But that's required. Lalgyam. It's required. So, intense eagerness. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. So this question is about curiosity, Maharaj. Like, does Prahlāda Maharaj knows about the benediction of his father? Father he got, like, he should not be killed by the human, and he should not be killed during the night time or the daytime, not inside the house or outside the house. So based on that benediction, does Prahlāda Maharaj start visualizing the God, so that God reciprocated in that form to him? That is my question, Maharaj.
It's a nice question. It's not exactly visualize. Here's a puzzle. Over here, this, and over there, that. How do you reconcile this and that? It's the puzzle. So, in Canto 3, Chapter 7, I think it's verse 17, something like that. There's a verse that says, Brahma is offering this prayer to Lord Vishnu, and he says that you're so kind that according to the form of the Lord that one worships, you show that form to him. And then on the other hand, in the chapters preceding Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva's appearance, going back to chapter 4 of this 7th canto, there are 4 places. I'm going to be discussing this tomorrow evening at the Chicago Temple. There are 4 places where it says Govinda. He's a worshiper of Govinda. That's not what Govinda looks like. He doesn't look like Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva. So how is it that Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva made that appearance, is your question. Was it that he was meditating upon that form, and according to his meditation, he appeared according to his meditation, that form that he was worshipping? It doesn't give that indication. It gives the indication he was a worshiper of Govinda, or pure devotee of Govinda, attached to the lotus feet of Govinda. Several places it says like that. So the personality of Godhead Nṛsiṁhadeva was reciprocating with not just Prahlāda, but he was reciprocating with Lord Brahma. Because it is one of his eternal forms. And in each day of Brahma, that form appears. And he manifested that form to match what Brahma's benedictions were. And he's none different than Govinda. He's one of the forms of Govinda. And in the Das Avatar Stotra of Jayadev Goswami, he's one of the 10 principal Leela avatars. But each of those Leela avatars and all of the other Leela, all the avatars, they're manifestations of Govinda. So he's a worshipper of Govinda, and he manifested that form not specifically because, this is my understanding, not because Prabhupada doesn't say it exactly like that, but he manifested a form to conform with Brahma's promise, to not violate Brahma's promise. So in other words, the answer to your question is no. It's not that he had that form in his mind, and that's the form that he was worshiping, and therefore that's the form that was manifest. He is a worshipper of Govinda, and one of the forms of Govinda is this form that matched what Brahma, and so he knew, this is my Lord. Not just because he overpowered Hiranyakashipu so easily, he manifested power that's beyond all the power of his father, but he had that understanding. And therefore the merciful nature of Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva naturally came out, because he's none different than Govinda. Okay. Anything else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Is it due to Prahlāda Maharaj as being a pure devotee and demigods being mixed devotees that although demigods are also Lord's devotees, but Prahlāda Maharaj got so much affection from the Lord? Was that the special quality of Prahlāda Maharaj, that he was a pure...
What's your question? You spoke the question part real fast. I didn't catch it. Don't do all the preamble. What's the question?
That demigods are also Lord's devotees.
Yes.
But then what is the special quality of Prahlāda Maharaj that he got so much affection from the Lord? And
because of his affection for the Lord. He's not a mixed devotee. The demigods are mixed devotees. They're not pure devotees. They're mixed devotees. They wouldn't be demigods otherwise. They would be in the spiritual world. So they have affinity for the material, and they have devotion for the Lord. And they're the most pious, and so they're demigods.
Right. Just one more. So Maharaj, all these, you mentioned about this Dashavatar also, and Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva is Vishnu Tattva only, and expansion of Lord Krishna only. But is it will it become fruitive if at the time of need of protection I am turning to Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva rather than Krishna?
No. Natural.
Thank you.
Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So this is follow up on her question. Would you say that was because of the faith that Prahlāda ji had on the Lord, that he is my savior, he's everything to me? Would you say that was a level of the faith he had?
It was beyond that. Not only he's my savior, but he is my object of worship and love. I mean, yeah. Savior, the distinction I'm making in response to your question, he's not a salvationist. He's not looking for getting salvation or getting liberation or, out of the material entanglement. He's not looking for that. He's looking for the affectionate exchange with Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva and his affectionate devotees who support that.
So part of surrender, maybe faith and surrender.
Yeah. At a matured stage where it's just the intimacy of love, not, the salvationist idea. You're please pick me up because it's really nasty here. I don't like being in such a dark, nasty place. Please take me to the nice place. That's not his view. He wants to be in service to him.
Thank you.
In the back.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. I had a comment and a question on the same point, actually. I was just noting for myself that the girl in the past time, she heard Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva saying, give me back my eyes. And I was just reflecting on that. It's not that every day that we hear that, nor is it that every person that hears that, because we also have other people who are definitely in the modes of ignorance who claim God told me to kill so many people and so on. So I was just appreciating that little girl for her pure devotion, and I was also requesting any thoughts on this comment about hearing God's voice, basically.
I just, there's lots of conjecture and misinformation and imagination and all kinds of things. It's not like everywhere, but it's there. And, we're not very moved by those kinds of expressions. Srila Prabhupada's teaching specifically about people who say stuff like that. Those who have that very, 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 there's three varies, high qualification, they never present themselves to others as the recipients of that kind of intimate mercy. Prabhupada's explanation is, those that do are like the 6 Goswamis, and they're always in the mood of separation. Just like the Sad Goswami Astaka says, Hey Radhe Vrajadevi Ke Chalalite Hey Nandasuna Sutta. Where are you, my dear Lord Krishna? Are you on the side of Govardhan Hill, the banks of the river Jamuna? Where are you? The feelings of love and separation is the mood of ones who are qualified to have darshan, but they don't advertise their darshan or their intimate exchanges. Now this other story, it's a little girl, and she's not boasting about, Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva talked to me. She was bewildered and a little afraid. So she went to someone that's an adult authority figure, the head pujari, who's a saintly person, How do I take this? He wants his eyes back. Will be taken care of. The backroom message wasn't in that story that we read. I attended a Pandal program in Hyderabad, and we went on for a week. After Prabhupada spoke on the stage, there was a line, and people would stand in line to ask questions at a microphone. And 2 of those evenings, somebody went into this long-winded thing, my mother, this and that. Every night, my mother stays awake, and the deity comes off the altar, and she sings for the deity, and the deity will dance, and she claps, and he smiles, and my mother, on and on and on. And Prabhupada didn't interrupt the man, but then he gave this response. One who is actually qualified doesn't speak like this. One who is actually qualified holds internal, and they speak in mood of separation, hankering for meeting, not broadcasting their meeting. He didn't say, I don't believe you, but he's just a polite way of saying, I don't believe you. Because that's not the mood of someone who has such experience. Anyone up front here? Okay, so something over here. We have something online? Oh, okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, you mentioned time.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something, and I get confused. Is time eternal, or does it wind up, when Krishna winds up this material creation, does it also enter into him? Or is it temporary?
Time as we know it is an expansion of eternal time.
Okay.
It's just like there's Yogamaya and there's Mahamaya. And they're one energy, differently manifest according to need and circumstance. So Rama Devi, who is the internal potency of Maha-Vishnu, the internal potency, are we okay? I think we're good. It's good. The internal potency of Maha-Vishnu her name is Rama. Rama. And Rama Devi, when she knows what her master wants, he wants to give the living entities that in this dormant state within his body the opportunity to experience full happiness and full consciousness. She knows what to do. That's what her Lord wants. And so she sends the time energy, but it's the transformation of eternal time into time as we know it. The past, present, and future kind. It's a reflection or expansion of eternal time that she sends. Because spiritual time doesn't create things, it doesn't destroy things. But time as we know it creates things and destroys things. So it's the expansion of eternal time that's under her care. This is one of her sub-potencies.
And when the creation is, when it enters back into Maha-Vishnu, time also enters.
Yes, Rama Devi withdraws. Time is up. Pulls the plug.
And then it's creation.
Time is withdrawn. And so the time as we know it is withdrawn from the field of the material energy, and everything collapses. Or goes back into the unmanifest state. So there's two features. There's a whole chapter in Canto 3, if you like to read. It describes the smallest units of time, and bigger, and then the duration of one day, one life of Brahma, and then there's eternal time. It gives that whole spectrum. It's a very interesting chapter.
I tried to understand it, gave me a headache.
Just well, the part that you're asking, you can understand in the very last section. Because this time as we know it is a reflection of eternal time.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you very much. Actually, I have one comment and one question, if that is okay.
I'm waiting.
Thank you. Maharaj, actually, a few days ago I was reading and I was fascinated by, of course fascinated, and later also it was weird, the idea of, I think it's Jupiter or Saturn, which has length of its day bigger than length of its year. And so, it was very fascinating.
Bewildering, yeah.
Fascinating, but at the same time, how flawed our definition of time was. That on some planets within the solar system, the day is bigger than a year. So today I got an answer in that regard, and so I really liked that part very much, the time part that we discussed in the class today. And the question that I have is, we discussed about Kriya Shakti and Ichha Shakti with regard to the time energy. Can you explain a bit more on that?
Those are sub-potencies of time. This is Brahma Samhita and third canto Bhagavatam. Time energy is one energy, and there's sub-potencies of time energy. That's the time energy as we know it. The past, present, and future kind. There's two sub-potencies of the time energy. Kriya Shakti. So there's Kala Shakti, has subdivisions, Kriya and Ichha. And both of those, Kriya Shakti and Ichha Shakti, are acting within time or under the jurisdiction of time in order to create activity. Activity as we know it, not the eternal kind, the past, present, or future kind. Because you have to have some activity. Jnana Bala Kriyacha, right? Prasya Shaktir Vivadaiva Shruyate. You know the verse. Parasya Shaktir Vivadaiva Shruyate Swabhavaki Jnana Bala Kriyacha. Those are potencies by which activities in this world take place. So Kriya Shakti is one of those energies by which activities take place. It's a potency of activity. And for activity, there is also its companion, a desire. I may have the capacity to get up and walk across the room, but until there's some desire, I don't get up and walk across the room. Then I need Kriya Shakti to walk across the room. So they're sub-potencies that without the assistance of Scripture and realized souls, we're just kind of going along for the ride without any details of what's going on. Just like, some people are whatever your profession is, you know a lot about that profession. And other people don't, like that guy that came and fixed the AC. He knows about the AC. And he spent whatever the 10 minutes, he knows what's going on. You can look at the thing for 10 years and you won't know what's going on. So there's subtleties of things, and so in the process of creation there's sub-potencies that we don't know what's going on. And those potencies are acting. Because the persons that have the proper receiver, they can receive Vedic knowledge within their heart and through sound. And then they can understand things that you and I can't understand. So, these are just, there's details. It's interesting. It's not like you can't go back to God if you don't know all these details. But it's how activity is going on around us. It requires the sanction of the Supreme Lord. It requires time, as we know it. for things to happen. And the time as we know it has sub-potencies. Kriya and Icha, desire.
Thank you, Maharaj.
The idea of Buddhism is to become desireless, which is fiction. You can suspend desire, you can become anesthetized, and when the anesthesia wears off, then desire is there. You can do some very intense discipline that anesthetizes desire, but it doesn't kill it because it's of the soul. You can stop material activity by anesthetizing Icha, but the time energy is going to continue to move, and the time energy stirs the modes of nature and desire through time. And then stuff happens again. So then therefore, the solution, the Bhagavat remedy or recommendation is direct desire towards the satisfaction of the Supreme. And that's the healthy condition, not anesthetize it. Use your time and your Kriya Shakti and Icha Shakti, use your time directed towards service to Krishna. And that's a journey, and it requires purification, you can't be lazy. And then, because if you're lazy, you're not going to get there. You can be a nice person, but you won't get there. And those that want to get there, they understand this is how to get there. Especially by reading the Bhagavatam, it becomes more and more and more clear. The illusion is diminished and the clarity rises. And we want to, just like this verse that we read, he wants Narada's association. He doesn't want the opulence of benedictions that come from something temporary. He wants Narada's association and other such souls because they keep him fixed in his path to Krishna, path to serving the Supreme without any obstruction. Gradually, we're meant to become like that. And to become like that, look at what happened to Prahlāda. He became a king, and he ruled for such a long period of time. He had a queen, he had children, he did stuff. He was fixed in his Krishna consciousness. It doesn't mean that one has to become a tyagi or something. You have to engage everything in Krishna's service and have no purpose other than that. And it's gradual for reasons mentioned. Something else? I think we'll end. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nṛsiṁha Chaturdasi tomorrow, be ready for it. Ki jai.